Hello, today I'm going to be unboxing the ASUS ROG STRIX B850-A gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, which is going to be compatible with AMD's Ryzen 7000, 8000 and 9000 processors. So let's go ahead and get it unboxed and take a closer look at it. So this is everything that comes in the box with our motherboard. So we've got a quick start guide, we've got some information on ASUS web storage, we've got some ROG stickers and a keychain, we've got two SATA data cables, one's got a straight connector and one's got a right angle connector, we've got the antenna for our Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, we've got some cable ties and some accessories for our M.2 SSD. So we've got a Q slide, Q latch and 4 rubber pads. Taking a closer look at the motherboard, I'm working along the bottom from left to right. First of all, we've got our HD audio port with a comms debug port just above it. We've then got two system fan headers followed by two 3-pin 5V ARGB headers. We've then got a Thunderbolt stroke USB 4 header followed by another system fan header. Next to this, we've got our CPU overvoltage jumper, which allows you to set a higher CPU voltage for a flexible overclocking system. We've then got two USB 2.0 headers, followed by our motherboard's fourth and final system fan header. And then at the bottom right of the motherboard, we've got our system panel header, where you're going to plug in your front panel connectors. Working up the right-hand side of the motherboard, first of all, we've got two SATA ports, followed by a forward-facing USB 5 GB/s port. Just above this, we've got our front panel Type-C header, which will support speeds of up to 10 GB/s. We've then got our 24-pin power connector, followed by a start button. We've then got our motherboard's third and final 3-pin 5V ARGB connector, and then at the top right of the motherboard, we've got our debug LEDs, which you'll find useful if you need to troubleshoot your system. Working along the top of the motherboard, we've got our CPU opt, AIO pump, and CPU fan headers. And at the top left of the motherboard, we've got two 8-pin EPS power connectors. The motherboard features a 14+2+2 power phase design, and we've got large aluminium heat sinks over the VRM. In the middle of the motherboard, we've got our AM5 socket and standard mounting brackets. You can see the motherboard has 4 RAM slots and will accommodate up to a maximum of 192 GB of DDR5 at up to 8000 plus megatransfers per second overclocked. The motherboard has 2x16 size PCIe slots, and it's good to see that our top one is reinforced. This is a Gen 5x16 slot and it will run in x16 mode. And it's good to see the slot features ASUS's Q-Release Slim technology, where all you need to do is pull your graphics card from the left-hand side to remove it from the slot. The bottom PCIe slot is a Gen 4x16 slot and it will run in x4 mode. We've got 4 M.2 SSD slots on the motherboard. The top one behind the really beefy heatsink is a Gen 5x4 slot, whereas the bottom 3 slots are Gen 4x4 slots. The PCIe lanes for the top 2 slots come from the CPU, while the PCIe lanes for the bottom 2 slots come from the chipset. It is important to note that the third M.2 slot, that's the bottom left slot, shares PCIe lanes with our bottom PCIe slot. So if you install a drive in slot number 3, the bottom PCIe slot will be disabled. And installing your M.2 SSD in any slot is really straightforward using ASUS's Q-Latch technology. Taking a look at our rear I/O, first of all we've got the DisplayPort and HDMI ports. We've then got 4 USB Type-A 5 GB/s ports, followed by 2 10 GB/s ports. One of these is Type-C and one of these is Type-A. We've then got clear CMOS and BIOS flashback buttons. And next to these we've got 2 USB 2.0 Type-A ports. The one with the rectangle around it is where you're going to plug your USB drive if you want to flash your BIOS. Below this we've got a USB Type-C 20 GB/s port, followed by another USB Type-A 10 GB/s port. In terms of networking, we've got a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, and then we've got the antenna points for our Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. At the bottom we've got our audio connectors, which consist of spit out, line out and mic in. The audio codec is the ALC 4080 and the motherboard does support Dolby Atmos. So I do think this motherboard is absolutely gorgeous and perfect for an all-white build. In terms of pricing, I don't have any information just yet, but what I will do once the motherboard is available, I will put links to it in the description so you can click on those to find out how much it's going to cost. If you have enjoyed this unboxing overview, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.